Fertilizer isn't optional. You can't grow a crop without it, so when the price skyrockets, it catches your attention. Today on Kernels, we're breaking down what's driving the cost of fertilizer and what, if anything, can be done about it. Welcome to Kernels. I'm Tad Nicholson. Today's show focuses on a conversation we've been hearing from farmers across Ohio for a while now. Input costs are up, margins are tight, and fertilizer is at the center of the conversation. It's also an issue Ohio Corn and Wheat is very focused on. So today, we're going to break it down. What's driving fertilizer prices, what's happening behind the scenes, and where we go from here. Joining me today are two great guests to help me walk through this. Ohio Farmer and National Corn Grower Association President Jed Bauer and Nancy Martinez, Director of Public Policy, Trade and Biotechnology for NCGA. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you for having us, Tad. Appreciate it.
Jed, I'd like to start with you. You're not just representing farmers on this issue, you can actually relate to it because you are a farmer. So when you sit down and look at the books, how much are fertilizer prices changing the way that you're making decisions on the farm?
I mean, as I look at my operation, and I'm sure many of them out there are, I mean, we're crunching numbers and it's not working. So, fertilizer, unfortunately, is one of those things that you don't have a lot of options on. We've already been doing so much to mitigate cost over the past few years, because as we know, the grain price has been kind of trending down for the past couple of years, but fertilizer has stayed pretty true since 3 to 4 years ago. And we've seen, give or take a 14-15% decline in our price we're selling our grain at. So that's a huge issue, not only for my operation, but for everybody across the country. So as I dive into that, and I'm sure many growers, if not all growers across the country are doing, we've been trimming. Now what do we do? I mean, we've already been doing so many sustainability things as grid sampling. So we're applying fertilizer where we need it, not applying it where the levels are good at. But now, I mean, personally, I'm diving in farther. Okay, I'm looking down to the acre, what my crop took out of the ground last year for fertilizer. What do I need to replace that? And are my levels high enough? Do I really need to add extra? Or are my levels so high that maybe I can get by without adding fertilizer on that acre? And, it's tough. You got to have it. Over the long term, if you start mining your ground, you're not going to be sustainable. You're going to see yield loss drastically increasing because of that. So we're all in a tough situation, and we've got to be mindful that we need to cut costs, but at the same time, are you going to be hurting yourself down the road?
Not applying as a short-term answer to this. You got to get back to proper levels, as you mentioned. Nancy, the question everybody is asking, though, is what caused this fertilizer price to skyrocket in the first place? We've been asking that and talking about this for quite a while. It's not a new phenomenon. So is it truly a case of supply and demand, or are there other factors at play?
There's a bigger and complicated story here, and farmers try to source domestically for fertilizer whenever we can. But however, in the United States, there's not enough local domestic supply to meet the demand needed by farmers. And so imports are a factor of the fertilizer portfolio. So with the global fertilizer market, in 2026, there was a lot of turmoil. And really, this is backing up in 2022. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the redistribution of supplies kept energy costs high, which had a pressure on costs. But also there's Chinese export restrictions on nitrogen and phosphate that have impacted the global market too. And then all of this, factors into, the price, the pressure on price. So at the same time that prices have increased, farmers have less options to choose from. And then we have very, very low commodity prices. And if you just look at phosphate in particular, prices have increased more than 60% over the past decade. And for MAP and DAP in the past year, retail prices are still 10 to 15% higher than the prior year. And then we're also seeing increases in potash, also in UAN. Those have all increased by a quarter in the last year. So this is a recipe for disaster. Corn prices since 2022 have dropped 50%. So this profitability issue is really kind of unattainable for a lot of corn growers in the U.S.
We could go on and talk about the price of fertilizer for a long time. It matters so much to the balance sheet and the cost of production. But Much of what's driving those costs happens behind the scenes in policy decisions and trade rules that most farmers just never see. One of those is something called a countervailing duty. Nancy, can you walk us through in simple terms, what is it and how did we get here?
So what you're referring to is an anti-dumping and countervailing duty investigation at the Department of Commerce. And NCGA has been actively fighting against investigations into phosphate imports as well as for 2,4-D. And as a quick background, this is a process that the United States has so that domestic companies can file complaints against a foreign importer citing some sort of unfair advantage, usually sales below a market value. And it's a complicated process between the Department of Commerce and the International Trade Commission, where they conduct a joint investigation to determine if the domestic injury was harm and what ultimately that duty would be. But however, the unfortunate part of the case is that the rules in the investigation are very, very narrow as to what can actually be considered. And so downstream third-party effects are a very minor part of the investigation. So what does that mean for U.S. farmers? When farmers are harmed by these high duties that was started as part of this investigation, the Department of Commerce and the ITC are actually really limited in how they can use these factors in the case.
A countervailing duty is nothing more than a tariff, right? So it's a tax on importing phosphate in this case. And when you import phosphate and you have a tariff or a countervailing duty on it, it increases the price. Is it that simple?
It is. It not only increases the price, but some importers could withdraw from the market altogether. And we saw that in the phosphate case with the Moroccan importer exited the market entirely because of the duty that was cost prohibitive.
So the process is really built around protecting U.S. companies. So is there an opportunity, whether it's through this 2026 review, because the phosphate countervailing duty is coming up for a 5-year review in 26, is there an opportunity to correct this?
Absolutely. So there's investigation process allowing for a sunset review every 5 years to determine if the duty should stay in place or not. So NCGA has an opportunity to fully participate in this process once the submission period opens, to share the farmer's perspective and ultimately strongly advocate for these duties to be eliminated.
Because the process is built around protecting companies, going to be very important for all the growers. If we want to have an impact, everyone has to speak up. So Jed, from a farmer's perspective, what would be a fair solution? What would that look like?
Ultimately, the corn growers shouldn't be penalized for needing options to fit their needs. I mean, we need, for instance, phosphates fertilized to raise corn. So we're going to keep pushing and encouraging the Department of Commerce, the International Trade Commission, to sunset these duties on phosphate imports from Morocco. So in other words, these duties need to be eliminated because they're driving up our cost for farmers and reducing available options for us to resource and get the phosphate we need. We know we're up against a challenge here. We really think the whole process needs to be improved so that farmers' views can be factored into the Commerce's decisions on this.
Jed, what you're talking about here is that when a countervailing duty is put on steel or lumber or some product that every American really is purchasing, the cost to pay for that countervailing duty is borne by all Americans. If you put a countervailing duty on phosphate, it's 1% of the population, grain farmers, that are going to be taking all of that. That's not fair. And I don't think that that's probably what the people that came before us that created whatever a countervailing duty was, I don't think that's what they had in mind. Do you?
I really don't either. And you're exactly right. You know, we're bearing that as farmers. And many of the other industries out there have that opportunity to pass that on through their costs. As farmers, we all know our price is basically set by the Chicago Board of Trade, and then we have that basis figure in of what we can sell to, locally. So we don't have that opportunity, and it's really penalizing growers across the country.
So just breaking this whole thing down to one countervailing duty that's up for a 5-year review in 2026. Nancy, we're still early in the process, right? We're going to have plenty of opportunity for our Kernels listeners to weigh in on this whole issue. And so we'll be keeping them abreast of key moments, I think, in this whole fight going forward. What's one that you think may be coming up?
You're right. We're a little bit early in the sunset review process, but there's always room and opportunity to submit letters to stake out our position. So we'll be definitely informing everybody of how they can help out with that. But once the submission process opens, we will do a fulsome exercise with getting our submission in place and finding other friends in the commodity space to join our views, and also help motivate Congress, because Congress can definitely also talk about how farmers are impacted by this phosphate duty.
Well, first things first, and like Jed said, policymakers need to hear that it's an issue. We need to have, as farmers, start speaking about this. So it's going to be on our agenda when Ohio Corn and Wheat heads out to D.C. in March. Jed, Nancy, I know the issue is far from being resolved. Thank you both for joining me today, and I know that we'll be keeping up to date on this issue as it plays out. Coming up, a new take on an important event that's bringing farmers together.
Every business makes its own path, and every future comes with tough decisions. Whether you're planning for tomorrow, protecting the people you love, or building something meant to last, you deserve advisors who understand your world. At Element, we know your business is personal. We take the time to listen, to learn what matters most, and to protect what you've worked so hard to build. Let's take the next step together. Visit elementrisk.com today to get started.
Buy into better with corn and soybean products designed to excel in the Eastern Corn Belt and service you can trust. Seed Consultants, simply better.
We talk a lot on this show about the importance of staying informed and connected, and that's exactly what the next segment is all about. Ohio Corn and Wheat is proud to support the work of Ohio State University Extension and opportunities like this that bring farmers together. Joining me today is Alan Leininger, a Henry County OSU Extension educator, to talk about the upcoming event that you will want to check out. Alan, welcome to Kernels.
Thanks, Ted. How are we doing today?
Doing great. So you have an exciting event coming up in the next few days in Henry County, the Northwest Ohio Ag Expo. Tell our viewers what's new about this event this year.
Well, this is a brand new event. It kind of came from a bunch of brainstorming that we did after our agronomy day that we'd been doing for probably 8 to 10 years in the Deschler area, and decided that we needed to go a different direction with it. So we decided to call it the Northwest Ohio Ag Expo. It's going to span beyond Henry County. We're going to hold that in the brand new Ag Event Center that's at the Henry County Fairgrounds. Just built that last year. Last year's county fair was the first one in that facility, and during the fair it's for large livestock and the shows that go along with that. And then during the off season, they want to rent it out for different events, including trade shows. And this will be the first one we're having in there. Planning to have a lot of the equipment displays, vendor booths from businesses across Northwest Ohio, and have just an overall good event for the community to come be a part of.
That's great. It doesn't sound like your typical pesticide and CCA credit education. What inspired this whole change?
Yeah, the agronomy day that we were hosting, it was getting stale. Wasn't really well attended, and that kind of, ever since COVID, has kind of been the theme to those bigger extension events. We really struggled to get the community to come and support those. Happened to be right before our agronomy day last year. We had a reverse raffle for the group in the county that helped raise funds for the new building project. And I happened to notice that they filled the same venue with 400 plus people to come and do activities that really weren't educational, but they were beneficial to the cause. And I thought, well, maybe we need to create an event that's a lot more social, that is going to be something that people will want to come to, that is not just sitting there doing 6 to 8 hours of PowerPoint for an afternoon. I don't really care for doing that, and I don't know if many other people do either. It just tends to be the vehicle we've used. So we want to develop a much more hands-on event and still provide the pesticide credits, the certified crop advisor credits, some of those different things that the farmers still look to come and get, as well as have some things there going on that are for the general public to become more aware of agriculture and what we're doing. And as we go on day after day and year after year, we have more and more people that are disconnected from what we do. So anytime we can get the public in view of what we're doing and help bridge some of those gaps when we go to have those discussions that are sometimes difficult.
Well, it sounds like when people walk through the door, they're going to have a completely new experience. So I encourage everyone to attend. Give us the details one more time. When's the Northwest Ohio Ag Expo? Where is it? What do people need to know?
It is going to be March 6th and 7th. On Friday, the doors will open at 12 p.m. and we'll go to at least 7 o'clock. We have one speaker that goes on at 7, so when they finish up, that'll be the end of Friday. Saturday, it's going to start at 9 a.m. and run till 5. All of the pesticide credits and some of those different activities are going to be happening on Friday. So if you're interested in those, give our office a call in Henry County, so that way we can make sure and get you set up for that. Henry County Event Center is right off of 108 south of Napoleon. If you come up 108, you're going to see it just as you come into town. So that's kind of the rundown for that.
Well, Alan, this sounds all great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on March the 6th up there. I'll be joining you. Thanks for speaking with us on Kernels.
Thank you.
Every business makes its own path, and every future comes with tough decisions. Whether you're planning for tomorrow, protecting the people you love, or building something meant to last, you deserve advisors who understand your world. At Element, we know your business is personal. We take the time to listen, to learn what matters most, and to protect what you've worked so hard to build. Let's take the next step together. Visit elementrisk.com today to get started.
Ohio Corn and Wheat, working on behalf of farmers.
Ohio Corn and Wheat has some vital roles in helping the profitability of Ohio corn farmers.
Ohio Corn and Wheat's role in creating the next generation of successful farmers is bringing those farmers together.
It's important for farmers all across Ohio to get involved with Ohio Corn and Wheat, just because they are farmer-led and it lets our voice be heard.
Experience the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Join or renew your membership now at ohiocornandwheat.org.
Well, that's a wrap for this edition of Kernels. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you always stay up to date. You can also follow us on Facebook and our other social media channels for more great content and conversations.